Good morning, or good day if you're watching this later. I'm not going to say good night, because that would insinuate that you were leaving or going to sleep, which you shouldn't do. You should be here, watching the service, awake. But I hope you are comfortable and relaxed while you're here. Taking a little time to rejuvenate and for ease. A Sabbath. Time to stop worrying about all the 10 million things going wrong with the world and all the things you have to do. Just be quiet and enjoy life. For me, when I was younger, that would have meant waking up to blueberry pancakes, slowly reading the Sunday comics and getting dressed, maybe having people come over for a visit, and then at the end of the day, a nice family dinner with Segovia playing on the records in the background. What did you used to do as a child to rest and renew? If you could write those in the comments and send them to us, we'd love to hear. And what do you do now as an adult to incorporate renewal and rest into your life? Something to put in the back of your head and ponder about. In the meantime, welcome. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the service.
Our opening hymn today is Let Freedom Span Both East and West. It's number 148 in the Gray Hymnal.
Let freedom span both east and west, and love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. In beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion find. Compassion be the golden cord, close binding humankind. Beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed, let us make friendship, human worth, our common faith and deed. Then east and west will meet and share, and south shall build with north, one human commonwealth of good throughout the whole wide earth.
When lo by break of morn, when lo by break of morning, my love herself adorning, my love herself adorning. When lo by break of morning, when lo by break of morning, when lo by break of morning, my love herself adorning, my love herself adorning, doth walk the wood so dainty, gathering sweet violets and cowslips plenty, gathering
From Marta I. Valentine, in Lifting Our Voices, Readings in the Living Tradition. We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carry us through our week. We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children. Let us pause in our busyness and reclaim the beauty that is around us as we say our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Reverend Morrow is going to join me up here now while we light the chalices. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for members of this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. The second chalice we light for our Unitarian Partner Church in Šibenfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third we light for our children and youth in religious exploration and in the world at large. January 20, 2021 starts what we hope will be a new light, piercing the darkness, a light of truth, a light of hope, a light of peace. But just as this single candle cannot by itself produce enough to illuminate everything in a room that needs to be seen, so too this change in administration in our government does not mean that all our troubles are over. It does represent hope that all is not lost, and together we can start to mend what is broken. Just as this candle represents the light in all of us, and together, all of our lights can nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world. Now please join me in singing the flame into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Hello and welcome to the Time for All Ages portion of the service. As most of you already know, Unitarian Universalism, unlike many of the other world's religions, is not a religion that follows one creed or statement of belief that everyone in the religion must agree to and follow, but rather has a shared covenant of 7 principles that support a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Often these principles are taught using the colors of the rainbow. And after reading the sermon that Reverend Craig Morrow is going to share with you today, I was reminded of a story called A Color of His Own by Leo Lionni, because in some ways, we, the members and friends and children of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, are a lot like this little chameleon. A story of A Color of His Own by Leo Lionni. Parrots are green. Goldfish are red. Elephants are gray. And pigs are pink. All animals have a color of their own, except for chameleons. Chameleons change color wherever they go. On lemons, they are yellow, and in the heather, they are purple. And on the tiger, striped like tiger tails. One day, a chameleon who was sitting on a tiger's tail said to himself, "If I remain on a leaf, then I shall be green forever, and I too will have a color of my own. And with this thought, he cheerfully climbed onto the greenest leaf. But in autumn, the leaf turned yellow, and so too did the chameleon. Later, the leaf turned red, and the chameleon too turned red. And in the winter, the winds blew the leaf from the branch, and with it, the chameleon. The chameleon was black in the long winter night. But when spring came, he walked out into the green grass, and there he met another chameleon. He told his sad story. "Won't we ever have a color of our own?" he asked. "I'm afraid not," said the other chameleon, who was older and wiser. "But," he added, "why don't we stay together? We will still change color wherever we go, but you and I will always be alike." And so they remained side by side. They were green together, and purple, and yellow, and red with white polka dots. And together they lived happily ever after. Thanks be, and may all beings be happy. Please do consider joining us for the Children's Religious Education Program being held live on Sunday mornings via Zoom at 9:45 a.m. or for the weekly youth group meeting time on Thursday evenings at 5 p.m. Thank you.
The feeling of compassion towards another, acknowledging their wants, needs, and pain, and wishing them peace. It is so easy to confuse our own wants and needs with another and offer the type of compassion we would want. But to honor the inherent worth and dignity of another, we must offer them empathy, not sympathy, for their situation. I was reminded of this the other day when someone told me of the passing of a parent, a mother, and I immediately felt compassion for them, expressing my deepest sympathy for their loss, asking how they were doing, and stating that shouldn't they be home with their family? I was a little taken back by their reaction. Though they felt a sadness at the loss of their parent, they were not reacting the way I thought they should. And then I realized I was being sympathetic, remembering how I felt when my mother passed away, not empathetic to their situation, their needs. To empathically honor the inherent worth and dignity of another is to give them the compassion they need, not the compassion you want. Cindy Francis reminds us of this as she writes in our Joys and Concerns on the website, that our unsheltered community is always on her mind, especially now with the flooding and all the other uncertainties. I have one particular person I would like to mention, a young woman who has suffered trauma her entire life, as well as alcohol and drug addiction. In spite of Arches finding housing for her and 4 fierce women and 1 tenacious man supporting her, she has chosen to return to her abusive husband and life on the streets. May we compassionately remember that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And gratitude. Although it is still January, my red currant bush in my front yard is springing forth little green leaves. There's a purple pansy in my backyard that will not go away. It's laughing at the weather, saying, "Ha! You call this winter? I can live through this." The ducks are in the slough, now stream, behind the fence. And they're either floating by when the water is high, or diving their heads down to eat when the water is low. Even with all the changes that are occurring environmentally, it is still an amazing and beautiful world. And I am ever grateful for the pantheistic sense of interconnectedness of all living beings on this blue globe we are sailing. May we be grateful as spiritual beings that we are having this human experience on this planet together. Compassion and gratitude is our way. Please continue to share your joys and concerns on the website for us. You can go directly onto the front page, and there is a link that will take you to the place to write them down. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Our pastoral hymn today is Thanks Be for These. It's number 322 in the Gray Hymnal. We're going to sing verses 1, 2, and 3.
Thanks be for these life's holy times, moments of grief, days of delight, triumph and failure intertwine, shaping our vision of the right. Thanks be for these, for birth and death, life in between with meaning full. Holy becomes the quickened breath. We celebrate life's interval. Thanks be for these ennobling art, images welcome to our sight, music caressing ear and heart, inviting us to loftier height.
Well, good morning. It's good to be back again. You know, every time I visit this church, I'm so impressed by the quality of your music. There's good music at other UU churches, but that's all I'm going to say. It's so good here, so good. Well, in many churches, it's traditional to start with what you'd call the old 1-2. An Old Testament reading followed by one from the New Testament. It's usually done with complete certainty that the older book is really just there to confirm the truth of everything in the newer one. The Jewish past provides a base so the Christian present can sit solidly on top of it. But if you pay close attention, you'll find that things are not quite so simple. Our first reading is from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5. It's the longest of the 10 Commandments and the most detailed, from which we might reasonably conclude that it's among the most important. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work. You shall remember that you were a servant in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out thence with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. By which the speaker, who's supposed to be God, communicating his message through Moses, means Saturday, the day of worship for Jews. Our second reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, also chapter 5, and also very concerned with details. Think not that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or tittle will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Seems like the stakes are pretty high in getting even the smallest details right. That sounds like a lot of work, but hey, I thought that worship was supposed to be about taking some time out from all of our labors to enjoy things like listening to stories, singing together, sharing meals after waiting among others and talking the whole time, waiting to get to that food. Both the full and the empty, blending in strange and beautiful and unexpected ways. When I began researching the strange story of the Seventh-day Unitarians of Transylvania, something tickled my memory. Wasn't there an anthropologist who'd done research in 20th century Africa whose observations fit what I was reading about Eastern Europe in the 15 and 1600s? Mary Douglas, that's it. But what was it that she had said? Fortunately, I had just the right person to ask right at home. My wife, Pamela, is a professor of anthropology, emerita professor now. She gave me an instant summary of Douglas's views. One idea was about cleanness and uncleanness. Dirt is misplaced matter. And what matters most is that it's not where it's supposed to be according to some group's rules. Blood is a good example. Ancient Hebrews and modern Jews take great pains to remove every trace of it from food, while other people can consume it freely, sometimes fresh from the animal, as in some parts of Africa. The next idea is about categories. Proper placement is not only a matter of physical location, we also want things to fit into a clearly defined category. So, for Jews again, pigs are a problem because they have a hoof but don't chew cud like other hoofed animals. Can we show our slide? Yes, other animals. The pangolin is a mammal. That's a mammal that looks like a reptile with scales like a fish, but has no teeth at all. It lays eggs, but nurses its young. So what the heck is it? Should eating it be taboo or maybe reserved for exceptional people to eat as a sign of their exceptionalness? Pam added, that some of Douglas's most important ideas are about the human body itself. During times of intense social stress, such as persecution of one group by another, the group under assault may react by trying to exercise extreme control over the minds, but especially over the bodies of its members, particularly with regard to food and sexuality. She asked me, was the community that you're researching experiencing any extraordinary threats or pressures? That's the sort of question that an experienced teacher asks. I'll tell you about the situation of these early Unitarians and see how you think we should answer. I spoke last time I was here about the betrayal of Francis David, the Unitarian leader, by his longtime friend Giorgio Biandrata. Excuse me. Biandrata felt that David had gone too far attacking church doctrines when he denounced the practice of worshiping Jesus. David had said that Jesus was a man, divinely inspired, yes, but not some new category of God-man. After David's imprisonment, Biandrata called together all of the Unitarian ministers who had shared David's views and threatened them with a similar fate if they would not sign an agreement renouncing these radical thoughts. You may have heard that our ministers today are required to sign away their rights to due process and legal counsel if they disagree with any of the language or theories promoted by the current Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. To continue, though, over the following years, things went from bad to worse. Five ministers were publicly beheaded. Soon the Austro-Hungarian Emperor Rudolf II claimed Transylvania as his own. He was a fanatical Catholic. He knew what was right. He was determined to eliminate Protestantism from the land. Acting through his general, George Basta, he had ministers tortured, skinned alive, or burned slowly, quote, over piles of their burning books. Soldiers raped Protestant women and children. In time, no horses or even oxen were left, so people, shifted now into the category of draft animals, pulled plows in teams of 10. Food prices skyrocketed, famine raged, and soon people were forced to eat dogs, cats, animal skins, toasted bones, and sometimes, yes, each other. I'm sure that they would have preferred pangolins, but there you have it. The fury of politics, power, and religion combined and weaponized worse than anthrax, displacing, dirtying, and destroying everything in its path. It was under these circumstances that Sabbatarian movements began taking shape in the region. Even before the death of Francis David, there were reports that many Unitarians were looking more to the Old Testament than the New for guidance in worship and their daily lives. One worried Catholic wrote that Unitarian ministers in certain areas had all begun to, quote, abstain from blood and pork. And when it comes to food, you can only abstain from what others continue to take into their bodies, and that now separates you from them. Good heavens, what's to come next? You can guess. What about that command to observe the Sabbath on the seventh day, Saturday? Early Christian communities had been divided on the question, and some took Jesus' words about fulfilling every jot and tittle of the law to mean stick with Saturday. Later, Constantine, the first Christian emperor, decreed Sunday as a common day of worship. An emperor's opinion has a certain force. People looking around Transylvania knew the force of Emperor Rudolph's opinions. But instead of deciding to play it safe religiously, many chose to go in the opposite direction. Besides keeping a Saturday Sabbath, avoiding blood, pork, and other foods deemed unclean by the Old Testament, they also began to observe that book's days of fasting and feasting and to practice circumcision. Yes, ouch! But you get the idea. What was it that Mary Douglas had said about groups under pressure? They might react by trying to exercise extreme control over the bodies of their members, particularly with regard to food and sexuality. Eat this, cut that. Andrew Aosi was a follower of Francis David. He was a nobleman who had lost his wife and children due to disease in these hard times. He began a close study of the Bible while he too was convalescing from illness and soon became convinced of many Seventh-day or Sabbatarian views. Though not a minister, he began a prophetic mission of preaching these views first to family and neighbors and then beyond. He'd been down, but he was not out, much like the Unitarian community as a whole in those days. He began to compose hymns, poems, and essays promoting the Sabbatarian way. Unitarians could no longer gain access to printing presses. You remember that? That was one of the first moves, was to take away their access to printing presses, right, when the Catholics reasserted power. So, without access to presses, Aosi paid for his sermons and hymns and prayers to be hand-copied, back to the old ways. Such handmade texts appearing in a sea of print must have enhanced the special feeling of the ideas that they contained. Many people eagerly received them and asked for more. Others greeted them with horror. What do you mean? Jesus is the Messiah and the greatest of the prophets, but not the Son of God. Mosaic law with its dietary restrictions, circumcision for males, and strict Saturday Sabbaths with no work still holds for Christians? What kind of religion is this? It was like a spiritual pangolin that fit no category at all. By 1600, though the majority of Sabbatarians were Unitarians, the majority of Unitarians were not Sabbatarians, but they were getting uncomfortable. Teachings about God and Jesus were mostly the same in both branches. The difference was in religious practice. Sometimes that's where we feel our differences the most. We can voice somewhat different beliefs and say, oh, how interesting. I never thought of that. But if we actually do something different, our hackles go up, especially when it involves the body. Differences become less interesting and more disturbing. If pork and blood are unclean for you, but I still consume them, does that make me unclean? If you consecrate Saturday as a day of rest, but I work to get the crops in, does that make me a sinner in your eyes? If you believe that circumcision is required for all men to be holy, do I dare go to sleep when you live next door in a house full of knives and scissors? You can see how easy it would be for our imaginations to spin out of control. Sometimes religious teaching gets ahead of practice, which needs time to catch up. No doubt the Sabbatarians felt that they were simply taking the teachings they shared with most Unitarians to the next practical level. Those other Unitarians may have felt that their Seventh-day brothers and sisters were letting practice get ahead of thinking things through. It's possible for that to happen, even here today. For example, let's try a show of hands. I wish there were more here, but you at home can also raise your hands. How many of you are strict vegetarians? One. I see one. Yeah. Vegans? How many avoid red meat, preferring fish and poultry? How many like to have a big old juicy steak once a week? You get a lot of different answers to that one depending on where you live, don't you? But how does that fit with your religious beliefs or our shared UU principles? How many of us are designated organ donors? Yeah. How does that fit? How many of us plan to be buried in a coffin in the soil? Who has purchased space in a mausoleum above ground? No hands there. Who has let your family know that you prefer cremation? Pretty much every hand goes up. Why? Is that a Unitarian Universalist teaching? Does it fit with respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person, or for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part? I think that you could explain how it does fit for you. But it would seem very strange if you also began insisting on cremation or vegetarianism or a high-protein, all-meat diet for everyone here on pain of being excluded from religious fellowship. That would seem very contrary to the spirit of this church, but it's the kind of thing that often happens in religious history. It's happening today, as those in our movement who devoutly believe in what's billed as critical theory seek to punish and exclude those who do not find its assertions to be true or helpful, and who do not want to see such a theory replace our religion of free thought and expression with one that treats every human interaction as one of oppressor and oppressed. Briefly, it looked like Sabbatarianism might win the day, or at least win an enduring place as an alternative Unitarian community alongside the Sunday service goers. Simon Pesce was a talented scholar who had been hired as a tutor for the three sons of Andrew Aossi, the man behind those handmade books and tracts. Aossi recognized his brilliance and sent him abroad on his dime to study in such places as the Ottoman capital, Istanbul, to Italy, North Africa, Spain, and France. He returned fluent in 12 languages and with, quote, a profound knowledge of Jewish learning, plus, no doubt, some first-hand knowledge of Islam, which also affirms one God only and no funny stuff about the divine reality existing as three distinct persons. Aossi's sons had died, and he made Pesce heir to his substantial fortune and estates. He entered public service, became an advisor to several princes, and was for a time, quote, the most powerful man in Transylvania, until he fell victim to political intrigue among the local nobles. Things could have turned out differently, and we too might have been meeting on Saturdays and being very careful about what flesh we eat, what skin we cut, and where and when we cut it. Sabbatarian groups would arise from time to time, from the Reformation to the present, and some have become established churches with their own institutions of learning. Some have had a great deal of influence on our daily lives. Another show of hands. How many of us had cereal for breakfast this morning? A few. No. They dwindled and dwindled until there was just one congregation left. When, in 1867, the Hungarian government passed measures ensuring the safety of Jews in the region, that last congregation chose to adopt Judaism. Local Jews were willing to adopt and embrace them as well. And so ended the story of an unusual church, as the story of an unusual synagogue began. Can we have that pangolin again? There you go. There's my favorite critter. I hope that I'll get a chance to visit that congregation someday, to see how they have mixed this and that, and what they've done with their space to express their unique vision and purpose in the world. Just as I always look forward to seeing you and seeing what you'll do next with your space. New artwork, new equipment, a petting farm for children? What? A church? I guess it's something like a pangolin. This congregation, this place, a bit of this, a bit of that. And that's just fine with me. I like pangolins and the way they don't seem to fit any category. They're complex, interesting, and beautiful. I trust that what you are making here will always be beautiful and interesting too. So may it be.
Thank you, Reverend Morrow. There is a lot that happens around the world we cannot control. We cannot stop earthquakes, we cannot prevent droughts, and we cannot prevent all conflict. But when we know where the hungry, the homeless, and the sick exist, then we can help. Jan Schakowsky. Two organizations that help with our chronic issues of hunger and homelessness that UUCS has been supporting for years is the Marion Polk Food Share, and for the month of January, Family Promise. Recently, we received a letter from one of the recipients of Family Promise, and we're allowed to share that with you now. It says, "To whom it may concern, I am thankful for everyone that contributed to the Family Promise program. Me and my children have been homeless, living in someone else's car for the past 8 months. The week before I was accepted into the Family Promise program, I was truly heartbroken and ready to give up on myself. I couldn't provide for my children. I wasn't a mother at that point. I was going to give custody of my children to my mother. At that point, I was ready to die. Then the Family Promise program gave us a room to be in together, a safe and warm environment, shower, food, even a bed to sleep in. When I look at my children right now, I don't have tears of sorrow. I have tears of joy, because once again, I can feel like a mother. I am truly thankful for everything. Words cannot express how much I am grateful for everyone that contributes to this program. From the bottom of my heart and soul, thank you. Sincerely, Sandra and family." Although we don't see the little red wagon coming down the aisle anymore at the moment, and homeless families are not staying in our building the way they used to, the need for help has not gone away. In fact, it has grown during the pandemic, a truth I'm sure you're well aware of. So please, if possible, donate what you can to these two organizations to help your fellow brothers and sisters in life. And now, Family Promise organizers have actually sent us a small video that we are going to watch, telling about what's been going on the past year. Just take a moment or two. The beginning is kind of slow, so hang on.
For about 2 months before we actually heard about your shelter, we were ironically living in our van with a mattress in the back of our van in the parking lot right over here, the Del Villa. And my son was sleeping at my sister's house every night.
I don't like asking for help, but knowing that it is there is
It's
huge.
really, really huge.
Yeah, because we wouldn't have been
Because we
able to do
didn't
it
know about any
by
of the
ourselves.
resources.
Yeah, it wasn't working doing it by ourselves. We weren't getting anywhere. We were just, just surviving. But now we're actually, I guess, living, I guess, now? I don't know, right? Weird.
He had called shelters. I mean, 20s of, so many shelters, and there were waiting lists. We actually were on 3 or 4 different waiting lists.
And then
We
a couple
were-
other ones were like women and children.
Yeah, we didn't want to separate, and we didn't want Sebastian, just so he didn't know the gravity of what was really going on. That was just more important. And so when we saw that sign and I called, and I think you were the one that answered the phone, and you told me, you're like, the family just moved out, can you guys come in today? I was like, absolutely. It was an amazing feeling. It gave us hope.
The Micah building.
Yeah.
We drive by it, and Bastion's like, "That's the church we stayed at." He's like, "Can we go visit?" Yeah, we'll go visit one of these days, man.
She's like, you guys get the best room, and like we walked in there, and it was just, the feeling was just so nice. Those people were just so understanding, not judgmental, just the sweetest people, most kindest people we've ever met.
Yeah, they were really nice. That was fun.
And they made Sebastian feel like he was okay, which was the most important thing. You guys helped us a lot when it came to just resources that we could go and talk to you about our property debt, about any kind of bills that we had that might hinder us from getting an apartment. And that's what Julie was awesome, our caseworker. She was really awesome with that, just recommending places, like low-income places, maybe somewhere we didn't think about before that would have accepted us, because we had evictions and we had property debt, so it didn't look really, really promising when we were looking for an apartment. We couldn't believe that we found a place. We really just kept walking around and thinking, wow, this is ours. And then walking outside. And like for a minute, I was nervous to put anything up or to like move stuff around or to hang up pictures, just because I still didn't feel like it was really ours. Like we found something. It was like almost a year that we had been homeless. So it's a very surreal feeling. What does it feel like now? Like it's home. Like it's home. Sebastian loves his school, which is another really important thing. And that's another thing you guys helped us do. You helped us keep him in the school when we were at the shelter too. And we just didn't have any worries at all. And then when we moved in here, it was all because of everything that you guys helped us with. I want what we had for another family that was in the situation that we were in. And I don't want anybody to have to feel the way that we were feeling when we didn't have anywhere to go.
Please send your checks to UUCS or visit the website to donate. Thank you for maintaining the community of UUCS and the greater community of Salem.
Sweet nymph, come to thy lover, to thy lover. Sweet nymph, come to thy lover. Lo here, lo here, lo. Our loves we may discover. Sweet nymph, come to thy lover, to thy lover. Sweet nymph, come to thy lover. Lo here, lo here, lo. Our loves we may discover, where the sweet nightingale with wanton glosses her love to discloses, to discloses. Her love to discloses, to discloses, where the sweet nightingale with wanton glosses her love to discloses, to discloses. Her love to discloses, to discloses.
As Reverend Morrow joins me once again, we take the light from our chalice, lighting the social justice candle as a symbolic reminder of the light and justice we carry out into the world. As we extinguish the chalice, may we remember to nourish ourselves with meaningful work as well as restorative rest. As Alan Cohen says, there is virtue in work and there is virtue in rest. Use both and overlook neither. Shimon Falva wants a little more attention. Please take the time to join the Zoom service after this service, not the Zoom service, but the Zoom fellowship gathering after the service. Go onto the website to get the link, just press the button, and you'll be taken right to it. Anna Talley is waiting for you at 12 o'clock to see you there. A couple of people commented on my question. Thank you very much. Terry N. says, crafting is my relaxation. And Blue Prairie Dog says that nature comforts me. Both things I think both of us, not both of us, but all of us in this community can relate to. And we will talk about a crafting idea that you can come do in a minute. But first, just want to point out with news of the community that the Habitat and Hope Village sessions are continuing, and that then we are having the special Zoom congregation meeting February 7th, which you do need to register to. Very simple. You just go in, click, put your name and email. And then there's also an interest survey for the Building Sacred group, which is a new membership group, as well as people who've been here for a while can attend. And then also the communications team is looking for a good rookie to do various things and help them out a little bit, which is fabulous. The crafting activity that I was going to tell you about is the prayer flags. Please still continue to make some prayer flags. Here you can sign up through February 6th to come in on a Saturday and make a prayer flag. We had a couple of people come in yesterday. That was great. Vicki Cunningham, I know, came, and Lisa Lermont came and dropped off her flag. So please continue to do that. And now we have a short video to show you the update on the prayer flags.
closing hymn today is All People That on Earth Do Dwell. It's number 370 in the Gray Hymnal.
All people that on earth do dwell, sing ye aloud with cheerful voice. Let hearts in exultation swell. Come now together and rejoice. Oh, welcome in this day with praise. Approach with joy your God unto. Give thanks and faith proclaim always. For it is seemly so to do. For we believe that life is good, love doth abide forevermore, truth firmer than a rock hath stood, and shall from age to age endure.
Can we see our pangolin again? Is that critter still around? There's my critter. Well, rulers tried to crush the early Unitarians by denying them access to the printing presses that they had used so skillfully. You've got to admire the way those early Unitarians responded by distributing handmade copies of hymns, sermons, and essays so that they could continue to speak and share their truth. Recently, I found in my files an old copy, not that old, but an older copy of the UU World magazine, and I noticed that there were 7 pages of letters to the editor that came before the essay. The essay that I had written, actually, for that magazine. That's what I was looking for. It's 7 pages of letters to the editor, offering a healthy representation of diverse viewpoints among our members. 7 pages. 1 per principle. But take a look now at any recent copy of the World and try to find any letters to the editor, let alone a letter of dissent. Try to find even 1 word of disagreement with recent UU management policies or executive actions. Dissenting opinions or alternative proposals from UU lay members now have no place in our official publications or our annual General Assembly. Your press has been seized and your access to it denied, though your money is still warmly welcomed during this crackdown on your free thinking. But fortunately, there are still people who will find ways to get the message out, going back to handmade tracts if necessary, so their free thoughts can find expression. People like Andrew Aosi, people just like you unusual people who don't fit any category. Hang in there, you dear, complex pangolins, and blessed be.
Thank you, John Schinberg and Lorianne Schmidt, for putting together that prayer flag video. I hope that in a couple of weeks we'll be able to show you another video that shows even more flags available. And thank you, Craig Morrow, for coming once again and speaking at our pulpit today. May we now join hands, either spiritually or in person, and then say our closing words. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.